Guys, so this will be the second part of my explanation of Dungeons and Dragons. Um, in this time, I will start to explain how you go about making your character. There are actually quite a few ways to make your character. The way I usually do it is I pick which kind of character, what kind of role and personality do I want my character to have, and then try and find a race and a class based on that goes with that. So for anyone who doesn't know, the race of your character is basically what kind of species it is, and then the class is basically what your character's job is, sort of, I guess. I guess that's the simplest way to explain it. Um, so, there are an infinite number of classes and races in D&D, but I'm going to stick with just the ones that you find in the player's handbook because that's very simple for starting to explain it, and most people that's as far as they get because getting all of the books gets kind of great. Like, you have to really like the game to get all the books. And I'm also sticking with 3.5 edition because all the editions before that were revised for some reason to make them better, and most people I know don't play with them anymore. And then the only edition after that is 4th edition, and I ignore 4th edition because 4th edition kind of stinks. Basically, the entire point of 4th edition was to try and get people who play games like World of Warcraft into playing Dungeons and Dragons, so the focus is turned away from the storytelling and the fun part of the game into just combat, which isn't as fun. So, 3.5 edition, that's the good one. So, the basic classes are human, half-elf, half-orc, gnome, dwarf, halfling, and elf. Yeah, so 7. So, the one you obviously want to start with, because it's easiest to understand, is humans. You all know what humans look like because they're humans. Hey, guess what? You are one. So humans are they're kind of the average balance of all the races. Um, they're a little bit magically inclined, but they're not incredibly magically inclined. They're also, strong enough that they can do combat and fast enough that they can, sneak around and stuff. But they're not very fast or very strong or very good at magic. Although, kind of as a balance for being average, first off, being average is great because they can do like everything. They can do any of the jobs. Um, and they don't have as many downsides as the other races, except that they're not particularly good at anything. But they also get, some perks, like they get extra feats and extra skills, which I'll get into later. But so humans are pretty average. They're also the shortest lived race, but that really doesn't matter because I don't know anyone who's stuck with any one character long enough that the character died of old age. The next race is, I guess, elves are, the two most common races that I see people play as are humans and elves. I don't think I've ever played as an elf because I don't really like elves. Elves are taller and thinner than humans. They're more magically inclined, but they're not as strong or as fast. They like nature a lot, generally. I mean, there's lots of subclasses of all of these races, so that gets into more complications. But elves are more magically inclined. They also live longer, but they're not as strong. They don't have to sleep as much, and they're immune to most poisons, which is kind of a nice thing. So the one that would make the most sense to explain next would be half-elves, which is basically a human and an elf got together and had a child. And they're balanced in between the two races. They're a bit sturdier than and a bit stronger than elves, but not as strong as humans. They're a bit more magically inclined than humans, but they're not as magically inclined as elves. They don't have to sleep as much as humans, and they're also immune to poisons. But they don't all get all the extra skill points and feats that humans do. If I don't see people playing as a human or an elf, usually it's a half. Then, and these are the three medium-sized races. Um, I guess I'll get into size more later, but basically, races are, you've got your really small races, then you've got your medium-sized races, which are average, and then you've got one large race, which is half orcs, and they're bigger. Half orcs are not the most intelligent things on the block, but they're really, really strong, and they're really like they can take a lot of hits. Um, Depending on how you can do it, they can also be really fast, but they're not really magically inclined at all. They're not very strong, or they're very strong, but they're not strong in magic, nor are they very smart. Usually people who play with them are playing, combat oriented. Um, the next class, or the next race is my favorite, and that is gnomes. And gnomes are the first small race, and they're they're very magically inclined. They're mischievous and curious, and they like getting into things a lot. So a lot of the times they're pranksters and stuff. Their actual like favored class for the race is to be an illusionist spellcaster, which means they basically it's kind of like being a magician type of thing, where they trick people with spells. But they're really fun. They're fast. They like nature a lot. They like shiny things. They're really curious. They're mischievous, and I don't know. They're just kind of really fun to play. I think they fit my personality very well. The next one are dwarves. I'm pretty sure most people know what dwarves are. Dwarves are short, stocky. Um, they live in caves. They're very they have a high alcoholic resistance. Um, Dwarves are more combat oriented and less magic oriented. So I guess it's kind of late or early for me. Not really, but I'm tired. Um, but dwarves are more combat oriented and less magic oriented, but they can see in the dark, which also elves and half elves and gnomes and stuff can do. But they're also very good at seeing rocks and stuff. Um, Basically, go watch Lord of the Rings. Gimli is a pretty good example of what dwarves are supposed to be. Um, which is kind of interesting because our next race is halflings, which were originally named um, hobbits, but then for legal reasons got changed to halflings. And basically, they're half-sized humans. Um, they're the least gaudy of the races in terms of appearance. They're very comfortable people. They're very earth-dwelling-y people. And most of the people that I've seen play halflings play them as sneaky, stealthy characters. But they can also basically they're just like small humans. They do get perks and stuff, but basically they're small humans. And they can kind of go either way in the magic combat spectrum. But those are the 7 classes, and it's kind of a little basic overview. And or those are the 7 races. Sorry, and I guess I will get into class tomorrow. See you guys.